South East Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.
South East Radio.
Well, as we approach the end of another year, it is the perfect time for businesses and individuals to evaluate their current position and to plan for the year ahead. With this in mind, Kerry O'Neill from R. Hendy & Co. Chartered Accountants joins us now to discuss, amongst other things, the importance of conducting a financial health check. Kerry, as we approach the end of another year, is this the best time for business owners and individuals to perform this financial health check?
We would always recommend that people take a little bit of time out after Christmas and before January to pull together all their information and sit down and look at where they are and what do they plan for next year and how can they get there.
So what information is needed to perform a health check, and more importantly, what are the key indicators of a good or bad financial position?
Okay, so what we always ask people is to get their information. So, for example, if you're an individual, get your wages, your pay slips, your P60 if it's been issued at that stage. Get together all your year-long worth of your bank statements, maybe a mortgage statement, any credit card statements, any loan statements you were at. Have a look and see, are you on top of your repayments? Have you missed any repayments? Have you come up with a plan on how to fix these repayments? Obviously, if you're in arrears with any of your loans, and that also goes for businesses, if you're in arrears with your loans or you've extended your credit with some of your creditors, you need to sit down and evaluate and find out how can you sort this out for the first part of next year and come up with a plan.
Should this process be conducted independently, or is it possible to self-evaluate your financial position? In other words, are people able to be honest with themselves in relation to this?
We always find with individuals that I deal with, we always ask them first to keep a record for a week, sometimes a month if they're a family, of what they spend. And we always give them a copybook and say, please write down everything you spend at the end of every day. People tend to, leave out the Chinese or leave out, the fact that they went to a cafe or something. People always try and look at it in a brighter light or a more positive light. But you're not going to be able to do this correctly unless you write down every debt that you have and every expense that you have. If you're a business and you are in trouble and you're in arrears maybe with some of your loans and, you're gone over with your credit, it would be a good time to talk to your accountant. Maybe they could work with you in helping you restructure, maybe getting some more credit with your creditors, etc. If you are an individual and you find that you are in arrears, you can always go to speak to the local MABS offices.
Yeah, and of course, one of the other advantages as well of having it done independently is that you're dealing with people that know all of the options that are available to you.
Exactly. They will be used to dealing with this. Obviously, they don't judge. They're there to help you and, they will just take the information and come up with a plan to move you forward. So
from your experience, Kerry, what are the common issues and pitfalls that are identified in a health check and how can they be resolved?
Some of it is very basic. If you're spending out more than you're taking in, so your income is less than your expenses, you have to sit down and work out what are your priorities, what are your expenses, what do you need to pay rather than what are you paying. So we would often ask people to budget and relook at the budget every week or every month depending on their cash flow situation. And people are often shocked about how much they spend. And it's the same for a business. If you're spending out more than what's coming in, that's not sustainable in the long run.
And I mentioned at the start of the interview that we would be discussing the Awalia scheme. So what's it all about?
The Awalia scheme is a government-funded scheme through the MABS offices where they're giving people vouchers to go and see individuals. Now, it's mainly based around personal insolvency and house repossessions, and that's what it's kind of based around. So what they will pay for and allow you get advices from is a solicitor if you are in the repossession court. They will also allow for a duty solicitor to be engaged by yourself to appear in court on the day for you, okay? And these depend on what court you're in. Some courts have 2 or 3, other courts just have 1, and that can be arranged through your MABS office. They will also allow you to come and see a personal insolvency practitioner like myself, and we can apply for a personal insolvency arrangement through the court system at no cost to you, and the government will pay a flat fee. Then if you are in a personal insolvency arrangement and you do find that you need to go into what's called the appeal system, whereas the bank aren't agreeing and you have a very valid case, under the Awalia scheme, you can also get legal advice on that. There is also a voucher for an accountant to get accounting advice if you feel that you've been overcharged interest over the years or would like your mortgage looked into. Under the Awalia scheme, all these services are available. And you can avail of all of the services. You don't just get one voucher. You can only get one voucher for one service, but you can use up all 5 vouchers if you wish.
That's a great support service that's available through MABS, I have to say. But over the past 12 months, has the issue of mortgage arrears become more prevalent? And is it likely to worsen in 2022?
I can definitely see the courts getting busier in 2022. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, a lot of court sittings since 2020 have been rolled over. And what generally happens in these cases is if people aren't talking to you or annoying you or at you or writing to you or ringing you, and you're going through a difficult patch in your household yourself, your income may be down, your expenses may be up, people do tend to not prioritise paying their debts. And in some instances, the banks did give up to 6-month payment breaks, but some people did take more, or had gotten out of the habit of paying the mortgage, or was only paying part of the mortgage and hadn't gone back to paying the full mortgage. We can definitely see that in our office at the moment. So going forward, the general consensus is that, I do think the situation is going to get worse. And it's mainly due to the pandemic, loss of incomes, and the courts not sitting.
So if somebody is in mortgage arrears and they seek assistance under the Awalia scheme, what is the typical process that they will follow and the relevant timelines?
For example, if you're in mortgage arrears, you have one of 2 options to go to. You can go to your local MABS office where they will assess you. They will then send you directly to an insolvency practitioner, or they can try and do an informal arrangement for you. If that doesn't work, they will send you directly to an insolvency practitioner. A lot of the courts at the moment, if you do happen to be in the circuit court, will send you directly to an insolvency practitioner. And there's an awful lot of options and an awful lot of restructures being done through the insolvency system at the moment that aren't being done informally. So what you will generally do is either contact MABS or contact an insolvency practitioner. You will be given a form to fill in, which will be your income, your expenditure, your household composition, how much you owe, who you owe it to, what's the value of your house. It's all very basic information. Obviously, if people are in difficulty filling this in, they can just let whoever they've spoken to know, and they'll fill it in with them. And usually once that's in and any backup information that is required, you could have an appointment within 2 weeks. After this, with an insolvency practitioner, you will get what's called an options letter, a Section 52 letter, which will outline exactly what the insolvency practitioner would plan to do with your mortgage and how the restructure would take place. Obviously, as well, taking into account any other debts you have. It's not just about the mortgage. We do look at the holistic approach, and then that letter will be sent to you, and then it's up to you to decide whether you want to progress. If you want to progress, you obviously engage your insolvency practitioner, and then it can take anything up to 4 to 5 weeks to get your case into court.
So what is then typically achieved for those in mortgage arrears who have that protective certificate?
What generally occurs within those 70 days is a valuation of the property will occur. A valuation will be agreed between both parties. In some instances, we can get write-downs to the valuation amount, depending on who your bank is. We will automatically get interest rate reductions. We can also get term extensions. The big thing in when looking at personal insolvency is we have to look at the affordability. What can the household afford? And all the restructures are based around the household affordability. We have had some cases recently of age-challenged debtors who may only owe 30 or 40% of the value of their home. And the banks are allowing them live there for the next 20 to 30 years, paying an interest-only amount, because they know that the affordability is not there to pay the mortgage back. And obviously they don't want to go down the repossession route because these people are elderly. We are seeing some cases where they're writing down to the market value of the property, extending the term, and lowering the interest rate, basically to give people a chance to make the payments over a longer period of time and for as long as they're working.
And in the event that an individual cannot reach an agreement with the lender and the house is repossessed, what will happen during that process? If
an agreement is not made and you are outside of the MARP process as defined by the central banks, the mortgage arrears resolution process, your lender can turn around and issue you with repossession proceedings, okay? And that will be going to the circuit court. You will get a large document in the post and giving you a date. The first date is always adjourned, okay? We will always recommend that you turn up on that date, but it will always be adjourned. And the court will always give you time to reassess and get advices. After that, you will be called back. If you're not making payments or you're not making any effort whatsoever, or you can't come to an agreeable solution and a repossession is granted, even if a repossession is granted, you can still try personal insolvency, okay? And we have overturned repossession orders by getting an agreeable solution at that stage. It's never too late. Until the sheriff is actually at your door, there is always a chance to try and do something.
Now, it is obviously a very traumatic event in people's lives, but what advice can you impart to those currently going through the process or maybe facing the prospect of a repossession next year?
One thing I will always say to people is you need to just get your advices, okay? All these systems are here to help you, and everybody is here to help. Nobody will judge you, okay? And we will always take you step by step, hand in hand, through this process and try and explain the process as easy as we can. It's heartbreaking at times, and a lot of people would be in this situation due to medical issues or maybe, loss of income, loss of earnings. We will always try and bring you through the process as quick as we can, okay? We'll always try and bring you through the process as painless as we can. The first thing you need to do, and the biggest step for people, is to pick up the phone and ask. The MABS helpline is a helpline. They'll just direct you to your local MABS office. They may even make an appointment for you. The Insolvency Service of Ireland has a really good website called Back on Track, where you can find your local insolvency practitioner, or you can ring them up and they'll direct you to an insolvency practitioner, and they will direct you to one that's working in your area and that's busy in your area, and the first step is making that phone call. After that, the offices and the professionals will take over and bring you through the process.
Well, if you've just tuned in, that was Kerry O'Neill from R. Hendy & Co. Chartered Accountants, and I'd like to thank Kerry for sharing this important information with us this morning.
Southeast Radio's Business Matters with Carl Fitzpatrick.